I've used the Shure MV7 and the Rode Podmic for many of my YouTube videos over the past couple of years. So today I'm going to compare them head to head to help you decide which one might be best for you if you're someone who's just getting started with these types of mics. I'm going to go through the key feature differences, the build quality and the design, some sound quality tests that actually quite surprised me, some of the pros and cons for each mic, and then I'll finish by sharing my personal experience with some thoughts on which one might be best for you. I'm also going to cut between each mic for different sections of the video to give you an idea of what each mic sounds like, both with EQ and with no EQ. And a huge thanks to Riverside for sponsoring today's video. All right, so starting off with the Rode Podmic. This microphone is priced at $99 US, which is quite affordable in my opinion, and this is an XLR only microphone. So there's no USB output and you'll have to connect it to some sort of audio interface in order to record with it. It has no buttons or meters on the mic. The pop filter is also completely fixed, so you can't remove it. And this is a dynamic mic, so it's designed mainly for vocal applications like podcasting or YouTube videos like this. The Shure MV7, on the other hand, is also a dynamic microphone designed mainly for vocals. Now, it's actually just been discontinued by Shure and has been superseded by the Shure MV7 Plus. However, you can still get the MV7 from resellers online for about $250 US. And unlike the Podmic, the MV7 has some extra features, including a live audio meter, plus a touch panel that enables you to mute and unmute the mic, make gain adjustments on the fly. It also has a 3.5mm headphone out port so that you can directly monitor audio with a pair of headphones. The pop filter on this one is replaceable, and the MV7 also has a micro USB output, which means you can plug it directly into a computer without any need for an interface. All right, so moving on to the build quality and the design. Again, starting off with the Podmic. This thing honestly is built like a tank. It's made up of mainly metal and high quality plastics, and it feels really heavy considering the size of it. It's got kind of what I consider a pretty timeless looking old school design. It's actually really grown on me over time. When I first received it, I wasn't that into it, but I've actually really grown to like how it looks. You can get it in black and white variations to suit your setup. And overall, I think it's a very simple but elegant microphone, and it feels like it would easily last 10 plus years. Now, the Shure MV7 also is mainly made up of metal and high quality plastics. It is lighter than the Podmic, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does feel a little bit more fragile. It's also got more of a modern looking design, which I'm a fan of, and this one comes in black and silver variations. Now, one issue which arguably relates to the build quality is that the micro USB got bent within the first 6 months of using it, so it tends to fall out of the microphone when I'm using it. Now, you could argue that this is more of an issue with micro USB rather than the mic itself, and the MV7 Plus does solve this problem using USB-C rather than micro USB. But that's just something worth noting. Now, just before we get to the sound tests, if you're watching this video, then you might be thinking about starting your own podcast. And if you are, then I definitely recommend checking out Riverside. Riverside is an all-in-one podcast and video recording and editing platform that allows you to record studio quality audio and video from anywhere in the world. One of the biggest challenges we face as content creators is maintaining high production quality, especially when recording remotely. And that's where Riverside comes in. With Riverside, you can record high quality, crystal clear audio and up to 4K video, making your podcast sound and look professional no matter where you or your guests are. What I love about Riverside is its simplicity and its multiple tools for editing and publishing. You can invite guests with a single click and they don't need to download any software. Just click the link and start recording. Plus, Riverside's platform saves each participant's audio and video locally, then uploads it automatically, ensuring you always get the best possible quality. And the Riverside editor makes editing your podcast a breeze. With an array of AI tools to simplify the process, like silence removal, automatic captions, and AI show notes, as well as text-based editing. And here's the best part, Riverside offers a free plan, so you can try it out with no commitment. And then if you decide to upgrade, you can use my discount code to get 20% off your subscription. So if you want to take your podcast to the next level, then check out my link in the description to learn more and get started with Riverside. All right, so now let's get into the actual audio tests of these two microphones. Now, first of all, what you're hearing right now is each microphone with no EQ EQ applied. I've added some compression and boosted the volume a little bit just so you can hear it more clearly, but I haven't applied any EQ to either microphone. And in my opinion, with no EQ applied, I actually think that the MV7 sounds a bit better. It sounds a little bit warmer, while the Rode Podmic just sounds a little bit harsher, especially in the mid-range. But generally with these types of mics, you would apply some EQ. Okay, so now this is what the two microphones sound like with EQ applied. Now, just to explain how I've EQ'd these, with the Shure MV7, I've run this through the Shure Motive Mix app, which automatically applies a preset, which gives you a pretty decent EQ in my opinion. And then with the Rode Podmic, I've EQ'd this manually myself in Final Cut Pro to get this sound from it. Now, in my opinion, the MV7 sounds much better once it's EQ'd. I think it sounds really warm and quite rich. However, the mids and the highs, to me, still sound a little bit muffled, but overall, it's really solid. Now, the Podmic, on the other hand, I think overall just sounds a lot clearer and better balanced. The midtones and the high end are less muffled and they're more clear, and the low end isn't overpowering. Now, that's just my opinion, but I am a bit biased because this is my own EQ, so let me know in the comments what you think of how it sounds. And if you are interested in learning how I EQ'd the Podmic, then I've left a link in the description where you can enter your email and I'll send you a video of how I EQ'd it. So to me, overall, straight out of the box, the MV7 sounds better both when it's not EQ'd plus when it is EQ'd than the Podmic. However, once you apply some basic EQ to the Podmic, I think it actually sounds better than the MV7. Now I know what you're thinking, how is this a fair fight if we're recording one on USB and the other on XLR? Because isn't the USB going to be lower quality? And this is true, and I did some testing both on XLR, and I don't have audio samples, but what I found was that the Podmic actually sounded very similar to the MV7 once I'd EQ'd both manually. The MV7 still had a little bit more low end than the Podmic, but overall the audio quality was very similar. And to me, I kind of think there's a couple of things worth thinking about with this. The first is that the Podmic is $99 and the Shure is $250. So it's pretty good to be able to get the same audio quality on a $99 mic as you would from a more expensive one. And the other thing is that I think if you're just a beginner, then it's going to be pretty hard for you to tell the difference between audio that's been recorded on USB versus audio recorded on XLR. As you get some more experience with audio and learn to EQ it a bit more, you will start to notice a difference in quality. But also for the average person watching on YouTube, they're probably also not going to notice a big difference. And using USB to record is a lot simpler than having to set up a complicated interface and EQ your own audio if you have no experience with that. Now, in terms of handling plosives, I found these were both on par with each other. I think if you sit a normal distance from either of these mics, you're not going to have any issues with plosives. So I wouldn't worry about that with either of them. In terms of background noise rejection, again, I'd say I found them to be pretty much on par with each other. In my little recording studio, I tend to have a bit of construction noise going on around me and street noise, and both of these have been pretty good at rejecting both of those types of background noise. Now, in terms of my personal experience with both of these mics, I've really enjoyed both. The reason I really enjoyed the MV7 was because it was USB compatible, and at the time I didn't have an XLR interface and I didn't want to buy one, so being able to plug this directly into my Mac was great, and using the Motive app meant I was able to get really decent sounding audio without having to do any extra work in post, which was exactly what I needed. Then when I got the Podmic, I actually started to fall in love with it, and I think the reason mainly was because of the build quality and the design, but also just because the audio quality, in my opinion, does sound better, and a big factor of that is of course the fact that it's XLR. Now, in terms of the pros and cons for each mic, starting off with the MV7, some of the pros I think are, again, that USB connectivity is just super simple and straightforward. It's got good quality audio. That's a big step up from like on camera mics or even some types of shotgun mics. And then there's likely minimal work for you to do in post fixing up the audio. In terms of the cons, it is more expensive and that micro USB is kind of annoying, and it's also less flexible in post. So if you do want to tweak the EQ, once you've baked in that preset with the Motive app, it does become a little bit more difficult to tweak it. Then with the Rode Podmic, I'd say the main two pros are that it has excellent build quality, so it's going to last you a very long time. And I would say for the price, it's got better overall audio quality. The cons are that you have to get that audio quality from the mic by EQing it yourself, itself, and you'll also need an XLR interface in order to be able to record with it. So you have to factor that into the cost. So what's my recommendations for you? I think if you're a total beginner when it comes to podcasting, YouTube, and audio, then the MV7 might be the best pick for you just because of that USB connectivity and ease of use. Plus you won't have to buy an interface and have to learn a whole new device. Whereas if you're a bit more experienced with audio, if you kind of know how to EQ and you've either got an audio interface or you're happy to buy one, then the Rode Podmic actually might be the better choice for you. But let me know, what do you think of these two mics? Which one would you buy? Which one do you own? If you're into podcasting, then don't forget to check out the link to Riverside in the description. And if you want to see extended reviews that I've done of both of these mics, then I've also linked them down below, or you can watch the Rode Podmic right now just here.